Hi, let us understand the issues being faced when multiple configuration files are merged using kubectl command. If we have multiple servers, for each server or cluster, we will be having a dedicated configuration file. And we can merge all of them together and use the context accordingly. For that, we will be using a command called kubectl config view merge. When the configuration files are getting merged, all the context, the server information, the URL, everything will be getting merged as a single YAML file. So this is how the YAML file would look like, and these are all the two server configuration files. This is a production cluster configuration file where we have the cluster information, the context, and the user information. The same way we have another cluster called QA where we have the cluster information, context, and the user information. If you observe carefully, for both these clusters, we have the same user admin, but the certificates are different. Certificates and the key data are different. And for the production also, it's using the user admin, and for QA also, it's using the user admin. And the kubectl merge will not be validating the actual data. It will be using only the user name, and it will consider either one of this particular configuration file username based on which comes first in the command. Here, when I am consolidating, if I am going to consolidate the production configuration file first, that particular user will get merged and only that specific user ID will be available in the merged configuration file. So after merging, I'll be having two clusters and two contexts, but only one user. Both these contexts will be using the same user admin, but this particular certificate and key data will be valid only for one cluster, and only to one cluster we can connect. For the other, it will not authenticate. So to handle this, what we can do, we can modify these two configuration files before merging them. I do have these two configuration files. For production, I will name this as prod, and that will be referred from here. And for QA, I'll be naming it as -QA. And the same user will be referred from the context. Now when it is getting merged, I will be having the users with the list of admin QA and admin prod users. Let me go ahead and merge these details. With this command, I will be merging if any detail available as a part of config, then prod underscore config, QA underscore config. All this will be merged and it will be created as a new file called config.new. Now let me rename the config.new to config. So I should have a new file config. So in the config, I do have two users, admin underscore prod, admin underscore QA. The corresponding user will be referred from the context. So the authentication will work without any issues. Let me go ahead and try now. So I do have two contexts and this is set as the current context. Let me get the nodes. So that means this particular context is having two nodes prod dash. That means that's a production cluster. Let me switch the context to this specific context. The context is switched. Now let me get the nodes. Now this is made as the default context. That's marked with a star over here. Now let me get the nodes. Now I am getting different nodes QA dash. So this is one specific issue existing as a part of the kubectl merge while merging multiple configuration files. So with this, we have learned how to use different users or update the configuration file so that the merge will not create issues by consolidating or considering only one user instead of considering all the users.